IFBB Pro Greg Doucette here, and I'm going to discuss with you a topic that had been asked by a few of my subscribers. Basically, they wanted to know what I thought of Brandon Harding's cycle that he discussed and posted about on YouTube. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's extremely popular. He has about 400,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's 21 years old, so quite young, and his goal is to be like an Olympian in classic physique, okay? He's been training since he was 16 years old. He said he trained 4.5 years natural, and now he's not natural, came out and said basically, this is it, this is what I do. So he's quite open and honest, and so they wanted an analysis of his cycle and what I thought of it, so that is what I'm going to do. Before I get into that, I'm not a doctor and I don't condone or advise or suggest that you do anything that's discussed in this video. Never break the law. Always follow the laws of your country and what your doctor tells you to do. All right. So the first thing is, a lot of people write me and they're like, man, he doesn't look good at all. For all the steroids he's on, his body sucks. He's not that big. He's not like crazy ripped. It's like, why even bother? It's not like it's working that well. And I'm like, are they insane? He's 21 years old. He won his last show against, I don't know, like 8 people. And he's quite well built. He has a lot of muscle. He looks really good. And for people to say, oh, for being on steroids is not that good, do they think that you take steroids for 3 months and you're He-Man or Skeletor? No, it doesn't work like that. You gain some muscle, but you're not going to be Mr. Olympia. One of my biggest pet peeves is that people think if you take steroids, you're going to be Superman, huge and crazy, and that if you aren't, you're not on steroids. Half the people that take steroids look like dog shit. They don't even look like they work out. They're taking steroids because they don't want to look like dog shit. They want to look okay or decent or acceptable. They want to not be obese. They want to have a little bit of muscle tone. They want to get in better shape, and they want some motivation to go to the gym and get in shape and get and work out and have some fun in the gym and look good. They just want to look average. Steroids don't mean you're jacked. So I get comments, well, that Greg guy ain't that big for being on steroids all those years. Am I supposed to be that big? I'm 5'6¼ I weigh 193 pounds in the morning. Is that big enough? I was 142 pounds when I was competing, like when I was in my 20s. I'm way bigger than I was, but it's not, you can't gain 100 pounds of muscle just because you're on one cycle of steroids. So just want to point that out. Okay, he's only 21, so obviously he's not going to be as huge as he would be if he was 31, and he's not done a whole bunch of cycles. Now, do I agree with young people like that taking steroids? No, young, way too young. You start at 16, oh, I trained 4 years natural before I touched the sauce. 4 years? I started at 10 years old, and I was against steroids more than probably 99% of you watching this video until I was like 30. I was literally against it, like I hated it. 4 years natural? Oh yeah, I've been training 4 years, time to start. I was 14 at that time. I didn't even think about it. Now, I do totally get and understand the pressure of wanting to use PEDs because you see your superstar Olympians and your freaks on Instagram that are 16, 17, 20, 22, 25 years old, and you know they're all starting their steroids in high school, and obviously there's that pressure to look like them and you want to be like them because they're your heroes, and you know you can't do it natural. Sure, you can gain muscle and look better, but you're not going to be a freak in the Olympia at 18 as a natural competitor. It's going to take time. So I understand that pressure, but I do recommend and suggest that you wait as long as humanly possible before starting to take anything. So if you're 20, think, can I hold off 5 more years? If you're 30, can you hold up 5 more years? Wait until you really need it. And then at that point, that's the best time to add it because you've maximized your genetic limit, your potential. You can't get any better without it. That's what I did. I was at 170 whatever pounds, and I was like, a couple of years, it's like, I'm not getting any better. Now I'll start, you know? And so that's why I'm still at it at 43. I'm not 54, I'm 43, but I'm still at it and still in good shape. And I started at 10. So think of this, 33 freaking years I've been doing this. It's not like, oh, I just started this for fun. I love this, and I'm gonna keep doing it, okay? So my advice does seem to make sense, to wait, because It worked for me. I'm not burnt out. Okay, right into his cycle. It was 90 days. This is what he took. Test and nth 8, master on an nth 8, and tren an nth 8. That was what to start. Then at 6 weeks out, he switched from the longer ester to the shorter ester. So prop for the masteron and the test, and for tren that would be an acetate, which is faster, so you have to inject more frequently. So that was at 6 weeks out. And then at a week out, he cut it out completely, the injections, okay? So let's look into that. Okay, so the long ester makes sense at the start because you don't want to have to pin all the time. And if you're doing a shot of test prop at 100 milligrams per mil, or say it's at 300 milligrams per mil for test and nth 8, then one shot is going to be like 3 shots of the prop. So you don't have to do as much volume. So you're not pinning every single day. Every day. It's annoying and it's painful. You can't do the same spot more than once a week. So that makes sense to start with the long ester. Now, why would he switch to the shorter ester? Well, the only thing is if you don't want something in your system, for example, the testosterone makes you hold water. So if you have a long ester testosterone and you do it right to the show, you're going to suffer from bloating, water retention, estrogen, and not look as grainy and as shredded. So I personally agree with taking out anything that holds water out of your cycle completely as he did. Now, does he have to have switched 6 weeks out? No, that is a waste. It doesn't take 6 weeks for the test to go down enough so that it makes a big enough difference. 4 weeks would have been more than enough. So what happens? He did 2 extra weeks of pinning prop all the time, which is annoying. So if I was coaching him, I would have said, let's wait a couple more weeks before we get into the prop. Now, what about cutting it out a week out? Why? Well, if you do a shot and it gets swollen and it looks like a lump and it's red and puffy, which happens often, it's going to make you look shitty on stage. No one wants to see big lumps and injection holes and swelling, and it'll cover off that definition and you won't look as good. So it makes perfect sense to stop the injections a week before your competition so that you avoid the risk of having an infection or any kind of problem that will be visible on stage, okay? That makes sense. You want tests gone from your system, okay? The same can apply for tren, okay? So the same rules, and I'm going to explain it. So you went from the long ester to the short, a week out, stop, perfect, fine. Masteron. Masteron doesn't need to leave your system because it's a hardener. Masteron you want more of. So what I would have done was, in fact, cut out my testosterone and doubled my dose of masteron. Would I switch to masteron prop? No. Why would I? I don't want it out of my system by the show. Masteron prop is going to make me look better on stage. So if your last shot of masteron is a week before your show, by the time the show hits, it's out of your system. Why would you want the hardener that's making you look more shredded out of your system the day that it counts the most, show day? So in these situations, sometimes what we do is we do the last glute shot, which is not visible by the eye because it's behind your suit, okay? So you would do a glute shot 2 or 3 days before the event, your last shot, and this will kick in and be primed on that day. So that could have been a potential option had you wanted to switch from the prop. However, I just wouldn't even have switched to prop. I would have kept doing the masteron, and if anything, we could have done a double dose of masteron a week before the show so that you have a lot of it kicking in on that show day. And that'll take up and make up for the lack of the test and the trend that's getting out of your system. You'll have tons of masteron in there for the show. Okay, that's what I would do there. Now, what about his orals? Okay, well, he's doing Winstrol to harden up for the show. Well, that makes sense. Winnie is going to harden the physique. It's an oral. So the final week before the show, he would have been, and he didn't say the doses. He didn't want to say doses. So I don't really know why that part. So you just kind of have to guess. So maybe he was doing 50 milligrams. Maybe he was doing 100. We don't really know. But that would definitely work and harden the physique. Could he have done anything else oral-wise? Yeah. He could have done safer orals like Anavar because Winstrol is very harsh on your HDL, LDL, and really everything. It's just not as safe or healthy. But I mean, we're doing a show and he's on trend. So if you're taking trend, you don't really care about your health that much at that point. So I don't see any harm in, in him just going for it on this. Could have added Proviron. That would have made a significant difference. And some kind of an AI or a SERM, Nova or Arimidex, Aromacin, Femra, which is letrozole, one of those things. It would have got him way more shredded, way leaner. So he's missing. He didn't take anything for the trend, which could have been like Pramipixole or Cabergoline. So he's lacking in knowledge. Well, it's not him, it's his coach. Lacking in knowledge in progesterone-related side effects, okay? And I mean, you can't fault him, and he's only 21, so really, I mean, he's listening to his coach. He's doing what his coach tells him. But it could have been a lot better, okay? Now, mind you, this would be an intermediate cycle, not quite advanced because the dosing isn't severe and there's not a lot of compounds, but it's certainly not a beginner. And guess what? He is at a beginner level and he's on an intermediate cycle. So he's already a year ahead of where he should be in terms of the cycle that he's using. So he could have done the same show without the trend, probably still won, and saved it for later. So it was too soon, too early, and too much to really do that at this point. It will diminish gains long term. So by that I mean, when he's 25, he probably won't grow anymore. A lot of these guys peak out in their size by the time they're 25 because they started steroids so young. People are like, oh, he's only 25. Imagine how jacked he's going to be by the time he's 30. Well, not if you started steroids at 16, 17, because by the time you're 25, you're done growing. Now, if you started steroids at 24 and you're 25, yeah, you're going to keep growing big time till you're 30 type thing, okay? So just don't waste your growth when you're young age. And then, man, it's tough because it's only fun when you're growing. When you're not growing anymore, it's just not quite the same. Okay, he also took T3, so that's a fat burner orally, and he did that for about 6 weeks. His goal was at 2.5 weeks out, he was 200 pounds, and he wanted to be 195 on stage. So I just want to make a point. Guys, you need to lose way more pounds than 5 in 2.5 weeks with dehydration and dieting if you think you're going to look your best on stage. I was 199 pounds when I went to bed last night. I was 193 pounds this morning. I need to weigh 185. I'm very lean. 8 pounds over my weight class when I wake up in a mess in the morning, dehydrated, carb depleted, just wrecked. I wake up wrecked, guys. I eat a salad before bed. How many calories do you think is in that? Probably 400 or 500. It's spinach and chicken primarily here. I mean, come on. And I wake up depleted, and I'm still losing 8 pounds from my morning weight. So if you're 2 weeks out and you weigh 200, you got to think you're going to be 185, 190 tops. So just think you're going to lose way more weight than you think. You're never as lean as you think you are. If you think you're 5% body fat, you're probably 10. If you think you're 10%, you're probably 15. I rarely do I get people that guess their body fat's right. Everyone thinks that they're leaner than they are. Some side effects that he discussed. Anger, when he first went on testosterone, he described anger. Well, that can happen because you have extra testosterone, and that's extra drive, extra aggression, androgenic, anabolic. These are steroids. They're androgenic, anabolic steroids. So they do both. They give you more muscle, but they also increase your androgens, and they can make you more, I guess, short-tempered. Doesn't do it for me. Trend would be more so, and certain things do more so than others. He had no ability to sleep, really. Like, he would sleep 2 hours and get up and sleep and get it. And is this drug-related or diet-related? I'm going to tell you it's for sure both. If you're on trend, you're going to have a harder time sleeping. If you're natural and you're at 5% body fat, you ain't sleeping. I've done 42 shows natural, and I've done 13 now not natural. When I was natural, I would sleep 2 and 3 hours a night at the end. I wasn't on steroids. I couldn't sleep. You just can't sleep. Your body doesn't let you sleep. It's like it's in survival mode. It's like, screw you, you're not going to sleep. Go and hunt a deer, kill it, and start eating there, skinny. That's what's going on. Your body doesn't want you to sleep. It's like it sends signals, wake up and eat. We're starving to death. It doesn't want you to sleep. It doesn't let you sleep. It gives you energy. Go kill something and eat it. That's what's going on. So when you use steroids and you're dieting, it's compounding together, both together, and that's why you're having such a hard time sleeping. What did he take? Melatonin. Ooh, that's going to really work. A little bit, but you need way more than that. I use Go Dark from Advanced Genetics. It's got a whole bunch of different ingredients. I'm not going to get into it, but you need something stronger than just melatonin. I also take marijuana with THC before bed orally every night now. That helps me sleep a lot. You know, back when it was illegal, you'd have to get a doctor's prescription, but now it's a great sleep aid, so that's just something else you might want to consider if it's legal in your country. Anxiety and being wired, well, that's also going to be related to all the stimulants you're taking, the dieting, pre-workouts, fat burners, everything. It all adds up, and you can't sleep, and you're wired, and you have almost too much energy in a bad way, okay? Sex drive. This always goes down, especially if you have tanked estrogen levels at the end of a prep. You'd think, I'm on steroids, I'm going to have so much sex. If you're not dieting and you take testosterone for the first time, your sex drive is going to triple. Mine sure as heck did. I want sex all the time. If you're dieting, you don't want sex. It's the opposite effect. When you're dieting super hard, you might want sex once a week instead of like every day. It's way lower. That's despite all the steroids in the world. It's because you're starving to death. It's like that evolutionary thing again. Your body's like, we're not reproducing. There's not even enough food for you, let alone a kid. Don't bang that girl and get her pregnant. How are we going to feed the child? It just doesn't want you to have sex. I think of it like that, okay? His performance in the bedroom would actually work, he said. So in other words, his dick worked. It could get hard and all that. It wasn't like a problem with that. Just the desire wasn't there. This is normal. This is very common. If he had taken Caber, it probably would have helped a lot. And so there are ways to combat it if you're doing things correctly. But at the same time, if you are on a severely calorie, restricted diet, you are going to feel like shit eventually. Like me right now, 50% of the day, it feels like I can't even get up to use the washroom. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's like dying, it's death. So I'm a coach, message me, gregdoucette.com. That is my website, gregdoucette.com. And when I get my clients and they write me their reports and they're like, yeah, I didn't really have much energy today, from like 1 o'clock to like 2 o'clock, I felt a bit tired. You were a bit tired from 1 till 2. Well, that's concerning. Geez, I don't know what we're going to do about that. Drink a coffee. This is not a problem. A problem is I'm going to crash my car because I don't have the energy to shoulder check, because that involves turning my head that way 90 degrees. That's far. No way in heck am I turning my whole body. That's when you're depleted. When your girlfriend has to pick you up out of the tub because you can't stand up. When you can't put your socks on, that's depleted. When you are in a mess and want death to happen to you, that is when you're depleted and dieting really hard. Until you get to the point where you can't do cardio because you can't walk to the gym, that's when you're depleted. If you can do cardio, even if it's slow, you're not in a mess, okay? When you get to the point where you can't drive to the gym to do your workout, that's when you know you're in trouble. Anyway, hope you liked the video. Subscribe to this and click the bell buttons to get notified. And don't forget, check out my website, gregdoucette.com.